Hello. Well, 5 years ago, I decided I was going to stop taking benzodiazepines. Yeah, we're a long way from celebrating this. I decided I was going to enact this plan on a holiday because who needs medical support to be available? Yep, but this was my anxiety prescription, and I had talked to a doctor. We made a taper plan, and I was taking them as directed, so what could possibly go wrong, right? Well, the first day went okay, but the second day, a screeching arrived in my head that was like worse than after a Slayer show. But it was actually worse than the entire cumulative effect of seeing Slayer every tour for their entire career. And then my body stiffened up and I ended up in the ER, where they gave me back all the drugs I had already tapered. And they said, you can't just stop taking those. And I said, I didn't. I had a taper plan. And they said, well, you have to talk to a doctor. And I said, I did. I've been taking them as directed. And so they sent me home with the drugs. And they said, you can't stop taking those. And so I went home. And I did my own research. Well, that was a mistake. That was a horrible mistake. No good news, no success stories. Just a whole lot of like, well, I guess I'm going to be taking these things for the rest of my life. And I found some people who were like just dedicated to not taking these things anymore. 33,000 of them in one forum. And they had a plan, a long-range plan, and it was one plan. They had found spreadsheets they were downloading from one doctor in the UK. And so I did what I actually do a lot, which is I call the government and scream at them. I called the FDA, and I was like, me and thousands of other people cannot stop taking our anxiety medicine. And they said, well, how long have you been taking them? And I said, 7 years. And they said, oh, we have a 9-week maximum on those. And they said it was a guideline. And I said, well, I was taking them as directed. And they said, well, we don't enforce it. And I said, well, what am I going to do now? And they said, well, we don't really know what happens after 9 weeks. And I said, well, I do. Every time you try to stop taking them, you have a seizure. And they said, oh, do you want to be transferred to our adverse effects line? And I was like, yes. And I kind of became like a low-key FDA watchdog for a little bit. And so I got a new doctor. And then I said, and we're going to be following a protocol that I downloaded from the internet from one doctor in the UK. And this actually went over way better than you would think, because most patients don't show up with a whole manifesto about how they don't want prescription drugs. And so when I did the calculations for how I was going to not take my anxiety medicine, it came out to I'd be tapering for 1.5 years. And that meant that I should be able to celebrate exactly on my birthday in March of 2020. Oh! And I'm what they call an early adopter, folks, so I had to get COVID 1.0 right on my birthday. And then I got neurological effects anyway, but I didn't know if it was from benzodiazepines or COVID or why not both. And so I don't know how many times I called the FDA that year. Oh, I don't. Oh, boy. Because I had to taper those things through the whole year. But in September of 2020, not just me, thousands of other people made that paperwork change, and Mama's Little Helper even, and all of its benzodiazepine friends. There it was in fine print, the truth, right? I couldn't believe my eyes. I really couldn't believe my eyes because I've been hallucinating for 2 years because of this stuff. There it is. Not known if safe, if taken over 4 months. Withdrawals from more than 12 months. Hearing and seeing things that other people don't hear and see. Oh, the feeling of crawling bugs all over your skin. You know, things like that. Also, the FDA has now said officially, physical dependence is not the same as addiction. You can read all of that on the packaging for Valium and their black box warning. I would have never taken this stuff, not one pill, not on one evil plane, if I had known any of that. This was the worst thing ever, and I have had a life. And I'm telling you, nothing has given me more anxiety in my whole life than my anxiety medicine. Thank you.